my name is Keith Hodgson, Assistant Professor of Music Education at the University of the Arts in Philadelphia, and also Director of Education for Zeswitz Music in Reading, Pennsylvania. This podcast is supported and distributed by Zeswitz Music as part of its commitment to music education and the professional development and support of all music educators. Our topic this episode is the return of marching band, 2021 reflections from the field. And our special guest, we have a panel of four at the moment, but hopefully another will join us shortly. Joe Santanello from North Penn High School in Lansdale, Pennsylvania. Jennifer Theilacker from Fayetteville High School in Fayetteville. I'm sorry, that is Fayette County, right? Fayette County High School in Fayetteville, Georgia. And Chris Vitale from Westfield High School in Westfield, New Jersey. That's an easy one. And Rebecca Cichy. Did I say that right?
Cichy.
Cichy. I am sorry, I didn't say it right. Rebecca Cichy from Harrison High School in Evansville, Indiana, and Brian Cox from Central Bucks South High School in Warrington, Pennsylvania. So why don't we start with Brian? You want to just tell us about your school and a little bit of background?
Yeah, I'm the Director of Bands at Central Bucks High School South. We're a suburb outside of Philadelphia, one of the largest school districts in the state of Pennsylvania. We have 3 high schools here. At my high school, we have 7 ensembles, about 150 kids across all 7 ensembles, and about 80 to 90 kids in the marching band, give or take, every year. So I've been in this position for 8 years now, or I'm in my 8th year, I should say. I did my master's and undergrad both at Westchester University, and I grew up in Central Jersey.
Great, thanks a lot, Brian. How about Rebecca?
Yeah, my name is Dr. Rebecca Cichy. I'm the Director of Bands at Harrison High School in Evansville, which is located on the southwest part of Indiana. It's pretty centrally located with Indianapolis and Nashville and St. Louis and that sort of thing. The corporation that I teach in has 5 high schools, so it's a fairly large school corporation. This is my first year in this position, but I previously taught in this district several years ago. I played trombone and violin, went to Ohio State for my undergrad, taught orchestra and band, and did my master's and doctorate at Alabama. And yeah, it's been a interesting couple of months for sure, post-pandemic, but that's what we're here to talk about, which is great.
Thanks so much, Rebecca. How about you, Chris?
Sure. My name is Chris Vitale. I'm Director of Bands at Westfield High School in Westfield, New Jersey. We're about 20 miles east of New York City in central New Jersey. We are a single high school community. Westfield has about 35,000 people in it. We have 6 elementary schools that feed to 2 middle schools that feed to the single high school. We have about 200 students in the band program, 10 performing ensembles, and I think our program's a little unique in that we have 2 band directors, but we pretty much co-direct everything. I have to give a shout out to Trevor Sindorf, who's my colleague there, who I've known from college. I did my undergrad and master's degree both at the University of Delaware, and we pretty much are a 2-person team and head up everything, including the marching band. We have about 130 students that participate in the marching band of the 200 in the program.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you. And Jennifer.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Theilacker, currently from Fayetteville, Georgia. I just moved there about 3-4 months ago. This is my 21st year teaching. I started out, well, actually the last 20 years have been mostly middle school, but I've been inspired to go to high school and teach high school. Assistant band director, the head director, like Chris was saying, is the head director is Dr. Myra Roden, and we basically co-teach everything. I was in New York prior to this, teaching in several different situations, one not being marching band. So I have not done marching band for a good 10 years. So I'm back in it and loving it and back to competitions and all of that. So it's interesting to have a small break and then be back post-pandemic. So.
Wonderful. Well, Joe's still not here yet, so we're not sure if he'll join us at all, but we're going to move on with our discussion. So I want to know how your kids are doing. That is my my biggest and first question that came to mind to ask you. Who'd like to start with how the kids have been doing? Anybody want to take it first? All right, Jennifer, go for it.
I think the kids are doing great now that they're back and have a routine. I think a lot of them missed marching band and what marching band was to them, the students who had the opportunity to have marching band pre-COVID. However, the new students, it's taking a little bit of time to get them to understand and to trust the process of what competitive marching band is all about, because majority of our program, at least freshmen and sophomores, were brand new to marching on the field this year. So half our band had never marched. But the juniors and seniors, they're excited to be back, and so is the staff.
That's great. Next.
I'd agree with that. I think the kids are glad to be back. I think much like I think what a lot of adults have experienced, it's been a little overwhelming, going from having more time than you wanted to have on your hands and trying to figure out how to fill that time while we were all in quarantine, and then kind of being thrust back into this, busy schedule. And I know that has taken a lot of getting used to for both me and my students, but I think in a lot of ways, the students have been a lot more resilient than the adults through this process. And so I've been kind of looking to them for inspiration throughout all this. And it was a challenging year, but a really inspiring one in a lot of ways.
Right?
I share similar thoughts. I think there's definitely a new and a different kind of energy this year, and an appreciation. I noticed the appreciation, especially from the parents, because I think they realize having their son or daughter at home all the time, I think was a little bit of a slap in the face to some. So I think there's a new appreciation from the parents, which has been great. The support has just been wonderful. It's been, there's been some obstacles and some challenges. But I think knowing that the season could have been taken away at any given time really kind of gave them that drive to push through the season. So that was great to be able to see the band come together like that throughout the season.
And did you find they were taking care of themselves and each other?
Every once in a while they just needed a friendly reminder to mask up, but for the most part, they knew that they needed to take responsibility, otherwise they could ruin it for everyone. And so I think they did a really good job with that, with very few reminders.
Hello, Joe.
Hey there. Sorry for my tardiness. Super professional.
That's all right. Nice.
The lesson here is once marching band ends, I feel like I have no responsibilities in the world. And then I forget to show up. So I'm sorry.
We're just talking about how the kids are doing. I'll get to you in 1 second. Brian, how about your kids?
Yeah, it was extremely interesting, and trying to remind the staff throughout the season that, a lot of these kids are brand new to the activity. What I found most interesting throughout was that the sophomores, because last year we did something just very simple, just to have marching band when we could. So the sophomores were kind of blown away when it was much harder during band camp. The freshmen had no idea, so they were coming along with us. And the juniors and seniors remembered from the 2019 season. So it was kind of pulling the sophomores along a little bit more than we were used to this year, that I found most interesting. But yeah, I think, typically we always have that like big fight within the band towards the end of the season as they are around each other too much. And that didn't happen this year. The kids were just excited to be around each other the entire time. The parents were super excited to be at everything. And they were just ready to help with whatever needed to be done. It was a very eye-opening experience, especially after 2019 and then 2020.
That's interesting about the sophomores. And you were reminding me about that end of the season hump. That yes, every band and band director faces. And I saw a lot of nods when you said that. And I'm wondering, Joe, did you find the same thing, that maybe you didn't have that typical?
Yeah, absolutely. My experience has always been sort of a mid-season funk that we get into mid-October-ish. And I actually think we got steadily stronger. I mean, the whole season was a crescendo to the end, which was a really different experience. And I think it has something to do with the amount of inexperience that we had and the amount of newness that every new experience brought. It's really as if the kids just gained confidence. Okay, this is what we do on Fridays and this is what we do on Saturdays. All right, and if we do this, these results happen, and they just kind of got more and more excited as the season went on. We really totally avoided that mid-October funk that I've seen every single season prior to this one. So that was interesting. Yeah.
Neat. And you want to expand on about your kids? How your kids were doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think like everybody else, about 60% of the band had never gone to a football game before, had never performed at a live competition before. Student leadership. I mean, these kids were sophomores the last time, our seniors were sophomores the last time we were out running a full-fledged marching band. And that amount of newness was a real shock. So I think everybody had a really tough August, and I think they had a tough September. And like I said, I just noticed a wonderful growth and a wonderful tightness that began to occur, something that you don't get to see in such a short amount of time. Usually, the marching band is a big family, right? But it's so glacially moving. It passes from one year to the next. And this year, we really, we came out of the primordial ooze, and by the end, like, we were a family at the end. So, and it all happened in one season. So that was really neat. Just to share, last year we split the band into 4 mini ensembles. So it really had been for us a long time since we were together as a marching band, and they've really like pulled together and coalesced throughout the season. It was exciting and fun to watch.
That's great. So some of you have talked about maybe the size of your marching band. I was wondering if you could just briefly describe your marching band program in terms of what kinds of activities you do, level of competition, and maybe share what some of your program goals are for your program. Anybody want to start first? Chris, how about you?
Sure. So we have about 130 students that participate in our marching band program. We attend all of our home football games. We don't go to a lot of away games. We usually go to one a year, maybe 2. And if the team makes the playoffs, we'll continue into the later fall with them. Our marching band functions as a class that doesn't meet during the school day. So it's like a 10th period class that meets after school. We run kind of parallel to a lot of our athletic teams. Our students receive gym exemption, which is a big perk in our district, where they don't have to go to gym class and they get class credit for it, which they love as well. And we have a rehearsal just about every day of the week, but the students don't necessarily have rehearsal. We have a combination of sectionals that run throughout the week, and we meet as a full group 2 days a week for 3 hours. And then most Saturdays, like a lot of groups probably do, and we have camp weekends where we'll do like a full like 9 to 9 Saturday a few times throughout the fall. I would say we're pretty competitive. I think like a lot of the other programs here, we've been going to the Bands of America Regional, Mid-Atlantic Regional the last 5 years or so, and then compete here in New Jersey.
Great. Jennifer?
At Fayetteville or Fayette County, you got me calling the wrong school now, Keith. At Fayette County, we have about 130 as well in the band and color guard. It's a competitive marching band. This past year, they've done just state competitions. I know sometimes they've gone to BOA and things, but just returning, it wasn't something that was one of our goals. We have music class or band every day, but it's not marching band. So marching band is strictly after school, Tuesdays, Thursdays, 5 to 8. We do home and away football games, and then some Saturday competitions. Like we only had 2 competitions this year, which I think is less than what they're used to doing. Goal would be to definitely support, our school in different events, as well as, compete and entertain at a high level of excellence in our program. What was the other questions? I'm sorry.
Just some of the goals of the program.
Yeah,
You
so
mentioned about you mentioned your school. How about your school and community? How active is the band in
the band has been doing a marching classic for the last 38 years, which I really couldn't believe. And they also have an alumni band night, which a lot of people came back. There's only been 5 band directors in history underneath the Fayette County High School program, and 3 were able to come back, and that was neat talking to them about what marching band used to be like. And so there's a strong relationship in the community with the marching band, and it's very positive. And I was surprised just seeing the support during the football games. During halftime, people don't get up. they sit and watch the show, which is a little different in some of the areas that I've taught in. So there's definitely respect for music education, as well as the face of the school being mostly the music program.
Oh, fantastic. Brian?
Yeah, so I said we had about 80 to 90 kids fluctuating from year to year in the marching band. We compete in the U.S. Bands Marching Circuit almost exclusively in the A class, so we're the lower division of competition there. We're a relatively new high school. Building started spring 2005. Marching band started actually the fall right before that's fall 2004. A class most of the time that the school's been open. Goal would definitely be to expand the band. I'd love to be over 100 and try to stay over 100 and get us back to open class competition within U.S. bands. This past year, we wanted to try the Bands of America Mid-Atlantic Regional just to have a good time and try to get a good read from those judges. And we had a blast. It'll be a few years before we're back there, though. We're going off of the question that you just said. I thought that was a really great question about the sense of community, because we're a relatively new high school, and because there are 3 high schools within our district in such a small area, it is kind of hard to rally behind one group like a community high school can. So it's been really interesting trying to build that, and one of my goals for the program, besides being the competitive marching band, is being the school spirit part of the school. So we have a really great relationship with our cheerleading squad right now and their coaches, and our student section that comes to the football games. They've been really great the last couple of years. So it's trying to build it small within CB South and build the culture there so that it can expand within the community, and they can all file behind that one we are CB South thing. So that's one of my main goals, besides the competition in the group as well.
Thanks, Brian. That's great. Rebecca?
So I have just one band, and we have about 83 in the band. Most of those students I see during the school day, but my school corporation offers a lot of supplemental programs that the students can go to. So some students I only see after school, others I see during the school day and after school. It's kind of a combination. We're a competitive band. This past year we were in ISMA Class C, and that was actually due to the amount of students who enrolled in virtual academy last year because of COVID. So we're anticipating that we'll be bumped back up to Class B next year for ISMA. Regardless, we're still going to be a competitive band, and I know the students they've got that competitive side to them, which is great. We do home football games, a little bit of pregame, a little bit of our, we do halftime. We don't do any away football games. I will say, coming from University of Alabama and having a dynamite football program, then going back to high school and our football season's over already, it feels like I blinked in it and it went away. We do host an invitational. This year we had 12 bands participate. This year, the band was fortunate enough and earned a spot at state finals for ISMA for the second time in school history. First time being in 2019, then the gap year of COVID, of course. So that was a big deal. And then on top of that, this was the highest ranking that we've received this year, in 4th place. And what was really cool, you had mentioned the community aspect of it. What was really cool, we raised $15,000 within a week to help us get to state finals. And I had the amount of emails and text messages and correspondence from media and that sort of thing to help us get to state finals was just amazing. It was so great to have that feeling of support from community members, administrators, fellow teachers, and that sort of thing. So I certainly appreciated that. And fortunately for my school corporation, the superintendent is a former band director, so he gets it. It is, oh yeah, he gets it. He's fully in support of the arts, and I feel very fortunate that we have him as our superintendent. In terms of goals, I definitely want to grow the program. Again, Virtual Academy is what took a lot of students away last year. So building the program and increasing, I'm not one that's all about quantity versus quality, but we all know having a bigger band can help in a lot of different aspects. So I'm hoping to grow numbers. School spirit is another thing that I want to be working on as well. So we have a lot in store for us, but I think this year made it seem like it's very promising, and I can work with that.
That's great. Congratulations. Hey, Joe, how things at North Penn?
Things are great. So the North Penn band, marching band is completely extracurricular. We're here 3 nights a week from 6:30 to 9. We play at all home and away football games, even ones that are in the middle of a hurricane. Like I went to Brian's school a couple of weeks ago. That was quite the experience. We almost made it to halftime before the whole band washed away. We compete in the U.S. band circuit pretty much exclusively, although we do want to get to the BOA regional next year if we can get that into our schedule. It's a highly competitive group with a long history of trying to compete at the highest level. And so that's a really fun aspect of the program. My goal for the band program, we have 85 students right now. Only 14 of them are seniors. So growing in number is obviously something that I think we can do and we should do. Growing, our high school has 3,300 students. And so have 85 kids in the band is just not cutting it. So we want to grow. We want to reach more kids. As you guys know, the experience of marching band is musical, but it's also a lot more than that. And I just know there's kids out in our school that would benefit tremendously from being part of this organization. So trying to reach more kids, trying to build our diversity within the marching band. North Penn is a pretty diverse school, and I love that. It's just awesome. But I don't think the makeup of our marching band matches the diversity of our school building. So that's a big goal for me, is to figure out why we're not reaching, students of color, and why we're not equally reaching female students to male. Our band is like way heavy male for some reason. So, investigating some of those things and trying to bring more people into the fold, into the family, is a big goal for me with this program. And, marching band, to me, it's the heart of the program from an energy standpoint, not necessarily from a musical standpoint, but it's what fuels these kids to do everything else. It's what gets them excited about playing an instrument and being involved and being active in the program. The marching band kids infuse so much energy into all other aspects of the program. And so, that's another reason why I want to expand it, because they get hooked on band through marching band easier than they do in any other area of the program. So
it's a good point. That's great, Joe. Your enthusiasm is infectious. I'm sure it's going to grow. You've only been there, 3 years now?
3 years, yeah. 3 very interesting years.
Yeah. Let's go on to what your biggest challenge of the 2021 season was. Who wants to start with the biggest challenge you had? All right, Rebecca.
Yeah, I'll start. I had heard some stories about this when I was finishing up my doctorate, but I didn't really fully understand it until I finally got back into high school teaching. But the emotional repercussions of COVID were quite alarming to me. I could be having just a normal conversation with a student, and all of a sudden they just break down crying. And I wasn't quite prepared for that sensitivity level. there was a little bit of like reluctancy as well. And we all know that when it comes to being musical and musicianship and that sort of thing, there's a level of vulnerability. And it took a little while to kind of push them in that direction that it's going to be okay, you know? And I still get a little bit of pushback from time to time, but that was something that we had to do to grow together as a band. Instead of just playing the notes and rhythms on the page, we were able to kind of push through some of that emotional state and put it into the music. So that was something that took a little bit of time at the very beginning of the season, but I think we grew from it, and it was neat that we did it together. So I'm excited to see how that will continue throughout concert band season, pep band season, solo ensemble, and so forth.
Next.
I'll go next.
Yeah.
Our biggest challenge was something I knew this year was going to be challenging, but I did not see this one coming, and that was, we did from the sense of the students, and it was the like loss of institutional knowledge in the marching band program, and I expected it from like a student leadership standpoint. I think Joe said before, you know, like the leaders that this year were sophomores last time they did marching band. But from the parent standpoint, the loss of institutional knowledge from like a volunteer standpoint was something that I didn't really have my head wrapped around until the season started. You know, like and it wasn't for lack of effort. We had tons of parents there to help. They just didn't know what to do. You know, we had to like teach parents how to load trucks again and how to fit uniforms. And it was a little exhausting just going through it, because we would look around and the only people that knew how to do those things were the directors and the staff. So we had to teach them, you know. So I think that was definitely a struggle, on top of having to kind of reteach the students how to do marching band as well, and just how to function. You know, we had to take like almost like half of a rehearsal to just talk about how to put the uniform on, because no one knew how to do it, you know. So things like that were a little exhausting. The actual teaching them how to do marching band was not exhausting at all. It just moved a little bit slower than maybe previous years for us. But, you know, that was the fun part. It was all the other stuff that I think created more challenges, but we got through it, and we have awesome parents and awesome students, and that were ready to just, you know, to the point of exhaustion, do whatever we needed to do to get the season done.
Great. Jennifer, how about you?
I probably would go with what the others said, but the retaining of information, or the lack of retaining of information, was a little bit of a shock to me. I think when I was moving to high school from middle school, I did a bigger, I don't even know how to describe it. Just, I don't know. I expected something different. And I don't know if it was my newness back into the teaching of marching band concepts, but I just felt it was like pulling teeth a little bit to get them to remember what we did yesterday or the day before. And I think that the kids are just out of habit, out of, you know, being in school, out of being in a learning environment and actively participating, unlike maybe being online and watching a video of the teacher or something. But it took a little bit, it was a slow first month. But then kids, you know, we kept reminding ourselves as staff, we have to teach them. Kind of also like, you know, you're saying about the uniform. Yes, like looking at them lined up and their gauntlets are on backwards. And it's like, all right, we didn't teach them how to do this, and half of them have never done it. And the people who are telling them haven't done it for 2 years. So, and we had a new uniform this year. So it's interesting. But the kids, they did a great job. And today we actually had the opportunity to have the entire band together, including the color guard, because we have concerts this week. And we watched our last competition. And we also watched our first video that we took at the first game. And it was awesome just to watch the kids watch both videos and realize the growth that has taken place in 4 months, or, you know, 4.5 months. So they've come a long way. I think as staff, we've come a long way, and just realizing, you know, when we teach them and we teach them well, it's payoff, just like training them to be good leaders.
That's great. Hey, Joe? What's your biggest
challenge? I think the institutional knowledge thing that Chris was talking about was like, and it's funny because we, as band directors, we plan everything. All right, here's what we're gonna do, and like we totally missed the fact that like no one was gonna know how to do anything. And like we have phenomenal parents at North Penn. The booster organization is like outrageous, and there's a lot of people there. And almost no one knew what to do. And I almost felt like I couldn't tell them what to do because the last time I had done it, it was my first year there. And let's say I didn't take as many notes as I probably should have. So even I kind of didn't really know what to do. I'm like, I think we did this in 2019, but it was my first year and I don't really remember. So like, it was a lot. It was a lot. Everything that we did took twice as much effort as it probably would have if we hadn't had the pandemic. But like I said, just like the kids kind of grew and rallied and gained confidence as we went through the season, like all of that other stuff happened too. And, you know, we figured it out by the end. We became the well-oiled machine that we once were, but that was a challenge. The other thing I think that we struggled with initially was accountability. I think the students were used to being able to just mute their mic and turn off their camera, and if something was hard, you know, disappear. And marching band is like the accountability activity. Like every single one of you out here matters, and we are watching every single one of you and every single thing that you do, and we're going to call you out. And you know, for some kids that was such a shock. I mean, just such a shock. I'm not used to having anyone look at me at all for a year and a half. And now, like, it's all eyes on you for 3 hours straight for 3 nights a week and Saturday mornings. And I think that was hard for kids. You know, I really do. And we had to take time to teach everyone how to be taught. What does this mean when the teacher looks at you and says, hey, I need you to do this better, or I need you to do this thing in this way? Just that was really hard for them. And again, I don't blame them at all for it. It's just we went from what we were doing last year to this. And with marching band, that's how we started the year. Like, hey, welcome back to in-person learning. Here's marching band. We didn't ease into it. It was like band camp, boom, 95 degrees, and everybody's on you for everything. Good luck. And that was tough. So that was a big challenge for us that we did eventually get over.
Ryan, how about your biggest challenge?
Yeah, it's made me feel so good hearing everyone say very similar things. I clearly remember like day 2 of band camp this year, got hit with a rainstorm out of nowhere, and I was like, we need to move. And everyone ran, and like the pit just ran away without their instruments. I was like, God, like, what are you doing? I was expecting them to just know what I wanted them to do, and they didn't know what I wanted them to do. So it was bring them together and be like, guys, you gotta think for yourself, but also not think for yourself. You gotta think like I'm thinking, and having that conversation with them. And so yeah, like someone said earlier, August, September was rough, but like I don't blame them. Like I think the one thing that they learned last year, kids everywhere, everyone everywhere, was we learned how to cheat through things. And like Joe said, there's no cheating in marching band. And it was tough. I don't like to sugarcoat things either to the kids. I like to tell them how it is. And I also remember with the accountability, you know, a kid emails me one night and is like, I'm not going to be at marching band. I have tickets to the 76ers game. And I was like, man, that must be nice. I wish I could go to the 76ers game, but I didn't buy tickets because I knew we had marching band rehearsal. And then he showed up to marching band. So that worked out well with that kid, I guess. But reminding them that, like, yeah, this isn't something that you just choose to do based on what day it is. You are responsible to the other 80 kids that are out there on the field. And that's not something that they felt for the last year and a half. Having responsibility for other people, not just themselves, or being responsible for a part of somebody else's success. That was definitely the biggest hurdle that we jumped over, and I'm very glad that we did. And it definitely took some time, but you know, by October and getting into the end of the season, or like first week in November, a lot of those hurdles were crossed, and definitely looking forward to starting differently next year.
But the Sixers probably lost that night, didn't they?
Actually, it was before all the sickness and stuff. So I do think they won. But part of we had a concert the week after that. I was like, oh, don't buy tickets for next week too, because we have a concert on Wednesday. So
As you were telling that story, I was remembering that I, as a young high school kid, got in trouble for going to a Rush concert instead of marching band rehearsal. So yeah, actually, I think it was a competition I blew off. So anyway, I didn't say that. Let's talk about what your most memorable or impactful takeaway was from the season. What had a biggest impact or your biggest takeaway?
I'll start with that one.
Great, Brian.
You just beat me.
I'm sorry. And I feel like some of us are gonna have very similar things, but the last competition for us, the last performance, one thing that I don't think I was ready for when I started teaching was your last show might not always be your best show. And that's unfortunate. And with marching band, like one of the big things I always talk about is like, it's not like football where we have halftime. I can call a timeout. Oh guys, we need to restart. Hold on. Like it's whatever the show is. So we've had a lot of years where our last competition might have not been the best show. You know, it was the competition before that, or even 3 weeks before that, which is unfortunate. But this year, I mean, those kids kept working to the very end, up to like the last like 5 minutes of rehearsal before we left for Allentown, and they killed it. It was cold. The show was delayed an hour. It wasn't the best conditions, but they went out there and they had a great show, and you could tell just by the way they walked or they were marching off the field that they knew they had the best performance that they could have done that night. And thinking about where they were in August and where we were musically and visually and everywhere, just to go and see those last 9 minutes and then push all the way to the very end of the season was by far the most memorable moment of this season for me.
Joe?
So on like a sort of a macro level, like a bigger thing, I would say actually the first show was one of the best memories that I had, especially once they were done. And they were the last band on, I think, right before the host band. And so we huddled up, we talked a little bit, and then we came out to the field, and like they had never been to an awards ceremony before, and they're just so excited standing there. And I think we were the only one in our class. So like, okay, we won first place, whatever. But man, those kids' faces when they were lined up on the sideline during the awards ceremony, I mean, it was just magic. I mean, their eyes were lit up. Their smiles were so big they couldn't fit on their face. They were just like, wow. Oh, especially like the new kids were pretty pumped. The biggest group that was affected by it was the kids whose first year was last year. And they had gone through the 4 mini bands and the virtual competitions and never playing live in front of anybody. And so they came off the field their first time playing in front of real people and a real awards ceremony. And those sophomores were like through the roof. They were so excited. And they're like, oh, this is what marching band is supposed to be like. And I'm like, yes, thank you for coming back. Because I wouldn't have blamed them if they quit after last year. It wasn't that fun. Like we just had to do it so that we didn't lose it. But it clicked for them. They're like, oh, okay, that's why Mr. Santanello really wanted me to come back. And so that was awesome. And then one little thing that happened, I had a kid in the band. Let's just say at the beginning of the season, I was not his favorite teacher in the school. And we had many chats, many long talks. It was a journey this season. And at the end of the year, at MetLife Stadium, after we performed, he came up to me, he hugged me, we cried it out, and he was just like, thank you for not letting me leave, and that was awesome. That was the highlight of my season, is that hug from that kid was awesome.
Great. Rebecca?
Yeah, I would have to agree. The first competition, I think, was super memorable. You had the freshmen that kind of were like, okay, now we understand why we've been working so hard over the past couple of months, and they finally got that taste. Sophomores, kind of in that same boat, they finally got the taste of the competition energy. Juniors and seniors had recall. They were like, oh yeah, we remember what this feels like to finally get on the field and perform. And what helped I think with the whole atmosphere too is that our performance time was at night, and so we were under the stadium lights. It was a packed crowd. I mean, the energy was there, and so it was super memorable. And my students know that trophies, great, cool, fine and dandy. But the way that I gauge how the students felt about each of the competitions was right after the competition and as they're walking off the field. And just the level of energy, I had seniors crying, I had freshmen crying, I had staff members crying, and it was just a cool moment for us to have. And I think most bands that performed that day all kind of had that same reaction. So it was cool for our band to have it, but it was cool just to see the whole band community just all have different moments throughout the day, which it was cool to be able to witness all of that.
Okay. Chris, how about you?
Mine's a little similar. We go away for part of our band camp every year, and our school, we go up into the Poconos in Pennsylvania and stay in the woods and rehearse marching band for a week, and it's great. Last year was the first year that we didn't go to that camp, that our school didn't go since 1981. They've been going every year until COVID happened. So to go back to that, as you can imagine, we had to jump through a million hoops to make that happen. Not only was it our return after COVID to this, but it was like the first trip in the school after all of this. So it was a little bit of a challenge, but getting there and seeing the looks on the kids' faces, to have that experience, it's one of the biggest experiences that sticks with the students at the end of the year. Is just the time that they have together there. We do a lot of things other than rehearsing. And it was just a lot of fun. And then in addition to that, to make it even more memorable, we were up there when Hurricane Henry rolled through. So it dropped like 8 inches of rain on the area. We lost power. So it was kind of neat to come out of this, like virtual year where everyone's, on a device 24/7, and then to not have power for a couple hours and the kids were just stuck in their cabins in the dark, having to talk to each other. But it was a great experience. We had a blast, and it's just, it definitely made it all worth it. And it was a great way to get the season started for us.
Great, Jennifer.
I still don't have an answer. This has been so, it's almost overwhelming, like in a good sense, just coming into a new community, trying to observe, learn the ropes of the way they do it in this community and get back into marching band period. But I've just been overwhelmed with the resiliency of the kids and their hard work and the work ethic, even though this was hard. This was hard. Like I'm used to working hard, but this was hard. I've taught in New York, I've taught in the Bronx, I've taught with no materials. We actually had materials, but now it's like, whoa, what to do? But I'm just really thankful that we had such the group of kids that we had, even just the leaders that we had. We had 4 amazing drum majors that lead so well, and they've been trained to lead that well. And I think the best moment, although I swear today during our assembly when they were playing the marching band thing, I got a little emotional because I was like, I love these kids. Like, and they're just exciting to watch, and they love what they do and they have passion. But the last competition, I usually record every competition and football game for us to watch the next week in school and analyze. And the last competition, I asked someone else to record so I could actually be on the track and just watch, not worry about if I'm looking at intervals and getting everything, So I was like, I'm just going to stand here. And I stood beside the chaperones of the competition with the people who chaperoned us at the competition. And just being taken away for those 7.5, 8 minutes and just being in it and watching them come off the field and how excited they were and the tears of joy, because they know it's all worth it. It took like till that moment, because we didn't have the show done till we don't have it done, but we didn't have it completed for, a competition till the very end. We never had the entire ensemble together in one performance, not even at our championships. And that moment, and then being next to people who never saw the show before, and them videotaping it and getting emotional, like, oh, you didn't tell me someone was going to sing. And I was like, I knew it's coming, and I get emotional. It was awesome. And then at the very end, when it was awards, it's new for me. In Pennsylvania, I'm not used to the superior ratings going down. It just seemed like it was taking forever. Like we know, we were happy with the performance. It didn't matter what, but then we were listening and Dr. Roden and I were looking at each other like, okay, I think we're doing okay. And they called it, we had all superiors. All right, great. Everyone's happy. The kids are cheering. And then they went down and they were going through the awards for each class. And we won our class, the color guard, who it was rough. It started out rough. They had a new instructor like that started in July. So it was a rough season for them and they've grown so much. And by the very end, they were getting ready to call awards for the overall competition. We didn't even think about it because we know we had a lot of work to do and still doing. But after they called like third place overall, I'm still trying to figure out the numbers and what's going on. And I'm looking at Dr. Roden and she's looking perplexed. And she's like, look at the kids. So we start looking, just watching the kids. And they called second. And I realized, I think we're grand champions. Like, and it didn't really dawn on me, but it dawned on me. But the kids are still trying to do the math and they're looking confused. So when they call, the grand champions overall competition, Fayette County High School, seeing their face, they honestly had no clue. Like even after everything was called and the numbers, and just to see them light up, hug each other and like, guys, okay, it's not about the first place. I'm glad you got that. But the feeling of working hard, trusting the process, it all works out. So there are a couple moments, but these kids were a joy to be my first year at Fayette County. So I'm just a little excited.
I love hearing all your reflections. You guys are great. I knew I picked the right people. Hey, so since you talked about the drum majors and the leaders, you kind of leading us into my last question. What kinds of things do you do that you feel are proven best practices in developing student leadership in your program? Anybody want to take a first stab, Chris?
Sure, I'll go. I know that everyone does, training and things like that, but one of the things that we've done that we didn't do for a long time that I think has helped a lot is every other year we'll do a leadership book club that's open to any kids who want to come. We've been reading, the last couple times we did it, we've done the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. We meet before school once every couple of weeks. And then, depending on where we are in the year, we delay that and just kind of work at whatever pace the kids can. And it started out small and every year it's gotten a little bit bigger, and it has proven to kind of be a vehicle for us to just have conversations about leadership, and started to feed the marching band leadership program kind of unintentionally, I guess. So we've been doing that. We did it actually the year, I guess it was the first year of COVID. I don't even know what year it is right now, 2021. So 2019, that spring when COVID happened, we were doing it and finished it virtually. And, we'll do it again coming up this winter.
And so that wasn't necessarily focused at marching band, but just leadership in general?
Yeah, it's open to any students in the program. Ultimately, and it ends up being a lot of our marching band kids, but other kids come. We've had some kids who weren't in the band program asked to come, and we're like, sure, open door, and I try to let the kids kind of lead the way, and we just, kind of prompt them, and it's really, there's not like a hidden agenda to it. It's just something I've always been interested in, that kind of stuff. So it's just good to get together with them. And it has kind of inadvertently helped our leadership program. And a lot of those conversations continue once they get into the actual leadership program, where we start training them to lead the marching band.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Who would have thunk? A book club.
I know. Yeah.
Who else?
I'll go. I think like probably most of the others, we have probably 4 or 5 training sessions that are about an hour and a half long in the evenings in the spring. We're going over the basics, and we're pulling in resources from all kinds of places to try to help students understand what their role is, and all that good stuff. What I'll speak to actually is like what I'd like to see us do differently. Especially after this year revealed like a lot of things, revealed a lot of our needs, I think. And I think a lot of it is the social emotional piece of it. I think our leadership training program has focused a lot on what are the things that our student leaders can do to help us be the most efficient and effective performance ensemble. And what I think it needs to do instead is, what can our student leadership do to help every student in the band survive the marching band season mentally healthy, mentally strong, emotionally healthy, emotionally strong. And so if anyone has any ideas, let me know, because that I think, look, I mean, that's what 2020 and 2021 has been all about for me. I've gotten less and less concerned about the musical product. I think it'll be there, and I've gotten more and more concerned about the kids. How can we help these kids get through this? Like, high school is hard enough, and now we have this going on. So, what I want to do this spring is figure out how to help the student leaders first, and then help them to help their peers on that social emotional level, and highlight those things. Because the trophy is cool, but it's not as cool if the kids are too tired and too sick to hold it up at the end of the season. So
that's great. That's great words. Rebecca?
Yeah, I think I like all the ideas that I'm hearing. Since this is my 10th year of teaching, but this is my first year in this position, and the previous director had it set up so that there was not a student leadership team at all. He felt like it was everyone needed to be responsible and take accountability and that sort of thing. Now, did some leaders come out of the woodwork from time to time? Absolutely. But that was my first time kind of going through that, and there were definitely pluses to that method. Because then it just felt like everyone could step up, and they didn't have to lean on any particular section leader. They could step up when they felt like they could, So ironically, the previous director is actually my assistant director in the marching band. So I was able to kind of transition to that pretty quickly. But I actually was toying around with doing a book club idea in the spring. I think that is a fantastic idea. I'm also hoping to send at least the drum majors, if not some leaders, to the Music for All drum major leadership camp up at Ball State, which conveniently is only a few hours away from us here. So I'm planning on doing that. But my number one thing when it comes to leadership is leading by example and not needing the title. And so that the students are well aware of that. And, some of my best leaders don't have to say anything at all. They just do it. And so I try to mention those students quite often so that it's very apparent, what the model is within the program.
Thank you. Brian?
So we've had a very much evolving student leadership program and team. Every year I know it's not great, but every year we've tried something slightly different. We've gone, we saw that our student leaders thought they were teachers, and we're like, no, that's not your purpose. Your purpose is elsewhere. And this past summer, I got involved more with with Vivace Productions and the Drum Major Academy and Dr. Tim's leadership program over the summer. So we sent a lot of our student leaders to the Westchester camp, just Dr. Tim's 2-day workshop. And this year I want to send them more. I want to send them to the Drum Major Academy and things like that. But throughout the season, my leadership team that went to that seminar with me, we would meet often and talk about, what are we seeing now? What can we make changes? What did we learn from Dr. Tim that we can implement right this week, right now? What have we been forgetting that we need to bring back? And then we started a new schedule here at CB South this year, which is more student focused than we've ever had before. The kids have an entire hour off every day. Everyone has lunch at the same time. That just the building's kind of shut down for a little bit. They can go anywhere they want. So my drum majors started holding once a week meetings with anyone that wants to know more about leadership, anyone that wants to talk about leadership. And we've had great conversations that have come from that in that time period. And I think there are more kids interested in being leaders next year. One of the big things that we tried to drive home this year was the title thing. You don't need a title. We shrunk the leadership team by title almost by half of what it used to be. And we're like, this isn't an I, me ensemble. This is a we, us activity. So anyone can be a leader out there. You don't need the title with it. If anything, the title makes it less glamorous because you're doing all the behind the scenes work as well. So I'm very interested to see where our conversations go throughout this school year, and then trying to get more kids involved in the leadership workshop with Dr. Tim next year. And like I said, being more involved with Vivace, I'm excited to see where that program expands for our schools in the region that can benefit from that.
Fantastic. And Jennifer.
I have to say, you brought back some memories. I attended the Westchester Vivace program in 1994. That's when I first met Dr. Tim, and it changed my life as a sophomore drum major, heading into my first time being a leader with the title. But,
I attended in 2004, so
2004.
Same thing. It was the best experience ever.
Yes, unbelievable. But I walked into a great program. So what I know that they do is they have a leadership camp that's for anybody, even if they don't want to be a section leader or a drum major, anyone's welcome to it. And a lot of kids talk about that program and how it's helped them think about leadership. And even if they want the pressure, if you can say that, about, having to be responsible almost all the time. But something I've noticed that Dr. Ronan's done and still does every day pretty much is teach students about problem solving. Like if there's a problem, she's not going to solve it for you. Like if they go up and say, I don't have my Shako. Okay, problem solved. Let me know how it works out. Today during assembly, they're supposed to wear black socks. Someone had like Santa socks. You don't have the right socks on. And does anybody want to help him? Because we have to problem solve. And kids are like, oh, I have black socks. Grab an extra pair of black socks. They take care of each other. They've learned to take care of each other, not just worry about themselves. They're willing to help somebody who might have messed up over and over again. We've had students, every competition, there's one individual, he's forgotten something every competition. And I'm like, I appreciate you letting me know, problem solve. Let me know how it works out.
I always kept a can of black spray paint in the office.
That's a great idea. But I think problem solving skills and also teaching them confidence in the classroom and being who you are and being okay with it. One thing I do like about this district that I'm in now, or actually the district period, is that it's a diverse group of students and they encapsulate everyone. No one's weird. No one's, it's so interesting to me because you have all these different kids, different backgrounds. And it's just like, yeah, that's what he does. That's what he does. It's whatever. But, so I think just building confidence, taking care of each other at all times, and we're all in this together type mentality is huge for leaders, student leaders.
Well, you guys are great. I really want to thank you for sharing your thoughts and experiences and expertise with our audience. And I personally want to thank you, each of you, for what you do each and every day for all of your students. And to all my music educator friends, please continue to find opportunities to open more doors for all students to engage with music and with you. I want to thank Zeswitz Music and CEO Randy Shayler for your continued support for music education. And thank you everybody for tuning in, and try to catch our next episode. Thank you.